George Zimmerman trial for the murder of Trayvon Martin continues to haunt America. And Bill Frady of the Lock and Load radio show, lockandloadradio.com is the website presented by the Gun Owners of America, has a piece out. Apparently, Bill wrote this. Let's ask. It's titled, U.S. Justice Department Considering Retrying Zimmerman in Legal Liberal Lynching. Are those your words, Bill?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay. You want to repudiate that?
Do I want to repudiate it?
Or support
as far as using that terminology, that's not terminology I would use. I think the overall effect is the same.
Okay. Well, that's the terminology in the press release we got about your appearance. That was the headline, and then it says about your interview guest. Bill Frady is a military veteran and seasoned gun rights proponent. So here's what I don't get. First of all, setting it, we can get to the Justice Department in just a second if you don't mind.
Certainly.
Under the pre-2006 law, in 2005, Florida changed their law. Jeb Bush signed into law the Stand Your Ground law. And in 2005, prior to 2005, the jury instructions would have been, the defendant cannot justify the use of legal force likely to cause death or great bodily harm unless he used every reasonable means within his power and consistent with his own safety to avoid the danger before resorting to that force. The fact that the defendant was wrongfully attacked does not justify his use of force likely to cause death or great bodily harm if, by retreating, he could have avoided the need to use that force. That's the old rule. The new rule is embodied in the jury instruction, which Judge Nelson gave to the jury last week, which was, and I quote, George Zimmerman had no duty to retreat and had the right to stand his ground and meet force with force, including deadly force. Now, I get that, and I get the change, and I get that the jury couldn't find, Zimmerman guilty given that threshold. What I don't get is why nobody's asking the question, didn't Trayvon Martin have the right to stand his ground?
Both of those folks were where they had a right to lawfully be. That's part of the Stand Your Ground law. If you are where you can lawfully be and you're not engaging in unlawful conduct, you have a right to be there.
Right. Both of them, I think you could say, qualified under that, although there are laws in Florida against stalking people and against harassing people. And if Trayvon Martin felt that George Zimmerman was stalking him, and I think that there's substantial evidence that he was, then George Zimmerman was in violation of at least a minor law, a misdemeanor law.
Well, George Zimmerman was on a neighborhood watch.
No, he was on the way home from a restaurant.
Well, that's how they characterized it. Interestingly enough, that was never part of the legal defense, though. They never used Stand Your Ground.
You mean the legal prosecution? Actually, Stand Your Ground was part of both the prosecution and the defense. Stand Your Ground is part of Florida's law on self-defense. They did not invoke the specific provision in the Stand Your Ground law that denies the ability to have a civil trial afterwards, to dismiss a civil trial afterwards. I'm guessing that's coming. But Stand Your Ground is part of the Florida law. It was used. I mean, the jury instructions say, and I quote, if George Zimmerman was not engaged in an unlawful activity and was attacked in a place where he had a right to be, he had no duty to retreat, and he had the right to stand his ground and meet force with force, including deadly force. That's almost word for word from the Stand Your Ground law proposed by the Koch brothers, ALEC, the National Rifle Association, and Jeb Bush.
Well, what I'm saying is that according to my information, the legal defense team did not put this forward as a Stand Your Ground case.
No, they did not wave that flag around because they knew that flag was inflammatory. But the Stand Your Ground law was at the core of this case. But again, my question: why is it that it seems that Trayvon Martin is being tried in the media and tried in the press as how dare he punch George Zimmerman in the face or even attack George Zimmerman? He had no right to do that. He should have run. The court said, here's this long 4 minutes during which time Trayvon Martin could have run home. So Trayvon Martin was supposed to follow the old law prior to Stand Your Ground and try to avoid conflict. But George Zimmerman had the right to pull out a gun and shoot an unarmed person because he felt threatened. I don't get the double standard. Do you?
Well, no. I live in South Carolina where we have the castle doctrine.
Well, the castle doctrine would not apply to either one of them in this case because that only applies to your home and your property.
No, it doesn't. But I also am a concealed carry permit holder. And in my...
That gives you no special rights either.
Well, I'm trying to explain something. If you like, I will, and,
Go for it.
Okay. In a situation that I may ever find myself in, and I train for those situations, and I train ad nauseum for those situations, I'm going to avoid them at all costs.
That's just intelligent.
Right. If
George Zimmerman not only didn't avoid it, he actually actively sought that situation.
No, I don't think he actively sought.
Well, he could have continued home from the pizza parlor. Instead, he decided to get out of his car. He followed this guy for a block or so in his car. Then he drove around the corner to try and catch up with Trayvon Martin in the direction he was heading, hopped out of his car. Trayvon Martin thought Zimmerman was behind him. All of a sudden, he was in front of him. I mean, you tell me that's trying to avoid a situation?
So you're saying that Zimmerman got between Trayvon Martin and his house?
I am saying that George Zimmerman was stalking Trayvon Martin, and that Trayvon Martin had every right to stand his ground and defend himself, and that when that defense went before the jury and said, "Look at this scary black man, he beat the crap out of this guy, therefore this guy was justified in killing him," nobody asked the question, didn't that scary black man also, in quotes, didn't he also have a right to defend himself from a creepy-ass cracker who was following him?
Well, according to the information I have, once again, based upon the 911 call full transcript, Mr. Zimmerman lost sight of Trayvon Martin.
Right, because he turned his car around the corner because he was trying to catch up with him. I have the transcript right in front of me if you'd like me to read it to you.
And then he was headed back to his truck at a certain point after he had lost sight of him. And that's when everything occurred. Did Mr. Zimmerman and Mr. Martin ever exchange words, based on your knowledge, prior to the altercation?
Well, you can hear in the conversation. I mean, you can hear in Chantal, what's her name? I'm forgetting.
I know to whom you refer.
Anyhow, you can hear in her conversation him saying, "What are you doing here?" I mean, again, let me look at the transcript. But that's not the point. I mean, I get the point, and what you're asserting is that by saying that Trayvon Martin did not have a civil right to walk home unmolested and preserve his life, by asserting that liberals are doing a high-tech, not even high-tech, a legal liberal lynching of George Zimmerman. I don't get that. I don't see any. I'm sorry. I don't see any lynching news here.
Do you think that the good testimony, the eyewitness testimony to Trayvon Martin straddling George Zimmerman on his back, does that?
There was nobody who clearly asserted that as a statement of fact.
John Good did.
No, he said he thought that might be the case.
He stated that based upon the clothing that he saw, that he singled out who was who and who was on where.
He said, in his opinion, he could not be certain. But still, are you suggesting, again, now you're back to Trayvon should have run, he did not have the right to fight back, and yet George Zimmerman had the right to pull a gun and kill somebody. I mean, this is really inconsistent. Anyhow,
no, I'm not stating that. If Mr. Zimmerman attacked Trayvon Martin, I would...
Hang on just a second, Bill.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I'm sorry, Bill. That guy steps on me every day. LockandLoadRadio.com. You can read all about it. Listen to it with Bill Frady. Hey, Bill, thanks for being with us.
Yes, sir.